In this method, full trees are dragged to the forest road or to a landing by a tractor equipped as a cable skidder. Sometimes chains are used instead of cables to attach the load to the tractor. The method does not require tree processing inside the stand. It uses simple machines and working methods. It is suitable for extracting long loads and, depending on local conditions, it can run at high speed. It requires, however, large landings where storing space at the forest road, or a loader, needs skid trails in dense stands where steep terrain, payload may be limited in size, and the worker shares his time spent inside the cab with outdoors tasks to attach and detach the loads. The main use is mountain operations, when a full mechanization is not possible, or coupled with tree processing or chipping at the roadside. Time consumption, productivity and costs depend mainly on the size of the payload and the skidding distance. The work cycle includes the elements of extraction and of the work done by the skidder at the forest road. These work elements are driving to the tree bunch, also called empty turn, in which the machine is driven on the trail from the forest road or from the landing to the tree bunch. Maneuvering, once arrived at the first bunch, the machine is maneuvered to place it with the rear part oriented towards the tree bunch. In this step, the machine is driven as close as possible to the end of the tree bunch. Attaching the payload, the driver leaves the cab and uses cables or chains to attach the payload, and then returns inside the cab. Driving to the forest road, also called loaded turn, in which the machine is driven on the trail to extract the payload at the forest road or at the landing. Detaching the payload, in which the driver leaves the cab, detaches the payload from the cables or chains. Other tasks, such as relocation within the felling site, arranging the trees in a bunch, arranging the bunches at the landing. This example comes from Romania, where the trees were motor manually felled in a thinning operation. Following felling, horse pre-skidding was in place to move the trees from the stand to the skid trail. Here, the trees were bunched so as to form the loads for skidding. In other cases, this method works with a cable skidder that is used to extract the wood following mechanized tree felling and bunching. In all the cases, this means that the driver needs to leave the cab, attach and detach the payloads, which may be challenging with big payloads or when handling many trees within a load. When working with big payloads in dense stands, the risk of damaging the residual trees is high. Also, dragging full trees may cause a significant soil disturbance over the skid trails, particularly when working with broadleaf trees with well-developed limbs. Time consumption, productivity, and costs depend mainly on the payload size and the extraction distance. However, the payload size may be restricted by the stand's density, while preparing it by pre-skidding may take important resources, particularly when small trees are pre-skidded at the trail. Similar to other skidding operations, the loaded turn commonly runs at a lower speed compared to the empty turn. This may be because the driver needs to pay attention to keeping the payload on the trail, or, some other times, a higher power is required from the engine to move bigger loads. When the loaded turn is finished, the bunches are placed alongside the forest road and sometimes arranged using the front blade of the skidder. After that, the trees are either chipped or processed motor manually or mechanically.